Hello and welcome to another episode of Toya Talks Wrestling. I don't know if you guys read my post, but I had said on my post that I will have a video for you guys about Smackdown on Monday. It is Monday, and here's that video that I promised, because I am a woman of my word sometimes. Anyways, let's talk about Smackdown. I'm not going to talk about all of Smackdown, but let's talk about some things that happened on Smackdown. Let's start with the ladies first. Let's start with cringe. The cringe between Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton. So they had an interview. Wade Barrett was in the ring and Wade Barrett was in the middle, basically having another interview with these two. And I'm just like, why are we doing another interview? Like, who cares? That's what I'm thinking in my head. Who cares? Anyway, so the question was asked about, I think it was the question asked again, like, why Charlotte picked Tiffany as her opponent for WrestleMania when she won the Rumble, blah blah blah. And you know, she's like, well, Tiffany kept begging, and you know, she loves to do charity work, and as she's talking, the crowd's booing her and everything else. She was like, oh, you hear that? That right there is power. And I'm like, no, that's not power, that's booing. Are you high? What's wrong with you, Shirley? You alright? You alright there? And then Tiffany's like, hey Chicago, because they're in Chicago. Hey Chicago, what time is it? And everyone yelled out, Tiffy time. And then she didn't really say anything, she just gave like a look, like, see, now that's power kind of look face. Anyway, they went back and forth. You know, Charlotte kept getting booed. Tiffany kept like struggling for finding words. It was so cringe. It was just, you know, at one point Tiffany was telling Charlotte that, you know, yeah, she might be like 14-3 or 14-3 in a WrestleMania or some shit like that, or she has like 15 title shots or some shit like that. I don't know what she fucking said, but she said that she'll always be second to her father. They threw her father in there because they always throw her father in there. I mean, to me, I feel like, oh my god, that's so annoying. Called her a Necco baby. Charlotte Flair is like, she's the number one Necco baby. And I'm like, I don't know. That might be Cody. It could be Cody. I'm not quite sure. I'm just guessing, but I don't know. Anyways, you know, and everything else like that, and how like at WrestleMania she'll be second to her. That's what Tiffany said to Charlotte. It was just going back and forth, and at one point everything went off the rails, right? Because Charlotte Flair was getting booed so much that she wasn't able to just get her words out, right? And you know, even Tiffany's like, cat caught your tongue and stuff like that, and all this other stuff and everything else. Now I don't know, it has been said that one of these ladies went off script. I don't know which one. Doesn't really matter, because what happens after what I'm about to say is ridiculous. So it comes to the end of the interview where Tiffany Stratton basically was telling Charlotte, you know, she's going to beat her, and then she is going to end up alone. She's gonna be just like her relationships, 0-3, making the point that Charlotte Flair has been going through 3 divorces so far already, because she just recently got divorced from Andrade, and so that's her 3rd divorce, which was like, why was that even necessary to even say, right? And then it got worse when Charlotte was like, well, is that why Kaiser's in my DMs? And I don't know if you guys know that Luke and Kaiser and Tiffany Stratton are a couple. They've been dating for however long, I don't know. So she said that as Tiffany's leaving and stuff like that. The whole thing was just so cringe. Neither one of these ladies needed to say that. Now look, I don't mind once in a while you want to get personal, and you want to get personal to make the story better and to make the story, you know, good and everything else, and you stuff like that, because sometimes it's necessary to get personal, sometimes it's needed to get personal, sometimes it is encouraged to get personal, right? I feel like in this case, this is just, they're just trying to make, man, like, desperation. I'm gonna call it what it is, desperation. Like, it's just desperation. They're trying to make this story work, and they're trying to get under each other's skins and trying to like make everything like, cause this whole thing, ever since Charlotte won, she shouldn't have won. Okay, I am going to stand on that hill that she should have not won Royal Rumble. She shouldn't have. Ever since then, ever since she picked what's her face? Tiffany Stratton, it just has been one disaster after another, after another, after another. It is so just cringe. I'm just like at the point where I'm just like, goodness gracious, I hope this match is a sleeper and this match just kills, right? Because at this point, every time these two talk to each other, it is like Tiffany can't find words because she was struggling with words on Friday night, and Charlotte can't even say any words because she keeps getting booed out the building. It is so like crazy. I don't even know like what is going to happen at WrestleMania. It is like if Tiffany beats Charlotte, who fucking cares? Like at this point, you might as well just give Charlotte the title and just make her the biggest heel ever. You know what I mean? Just make her a super heel at this point, because it's like, I am like hoping like maybe we can get like a third person in this match or something like that, or like disqualification or something. I don't know, because it's like, oh my gosh, like I mean I want to be excited about WrestleMania and all the matches because it's WrestleMania. This is like the crop of the crop, right? This is like going to like the Super Bowl. You win all these in football, you win all these games just to get to the big time, and then it's like, okay, you just flop, right? And stuff like that, and you just flop there. I don't know. I don't know. I just, it's so cringe. I am trying at this point, honestly, if these two have to see each other, because we're still not in WrestleMania mode. We got like 2 more fucking weeks. This Monday, next one, and then we have 2 more weeks to go still. So we're not even near WrestleMania yet, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, never again, WWE, never fucking again. But at this point, my honest opinion is, whenever they see each other in the next 2 weeks, don't even say to each other. Just start attacking. Just start fighting each other. You know what I mean? Just do that. Because I also heard that they took some of the stuff off their promos in the like they put their videos back on the on like their YouTube channel, and I heard they took some of that stuff off, which I'm like, good, because that was like embarrassing. Honestly, it was like so unnecessary. It was not necessary at all. But anyways, let's just move on. Oh my gosh, these ladies. Like, I want to like these ladies. I do. I really do. But it's like, y'all making it really hard for me. Anyways, speaking of more ladies, we had a match between Naomi and B-Fab. Naomi won, and then she called out Jade Cargill. She's like, I'm right here, Jade Cargill. Where you at? Jade Cargill comes from behind and beats her up. Here comes security. Jade Cargill, in like the weirdest fucking matter ever, beats up security, but looks so believable. God, really. Anyways, Nick Aldis comes out and he's like, that's it, fat enough. Obviously, you guys need to settle this, so we'll settle this the only way we can in a match. So it will be Naomi versus Jade Cargill at WrestleMania. So I'm glad that both these ladies have a match at WrestleMania, because damn it, if Naomi don't deserve a match at WrestleMania, and that she's going against Jade Cargill is great, and this will be a great opportunity for Bianca Belair to turn heel, because she needs to turn heel. Like, I know there's a triple threat, and I know a lot of people think that Rhea's gonna turn heel, but like I said this before in my Raw video about the when Bianca Belair was the special guest host, guest referee, sorry. Yeah, she needs to turn heel, because we had Io turn heel, we had Io heel, we had Rhea heel. We need a Bianca heel. I don't see what the big deal would be. I don't. Anyways, that is that. Let's go ahead and move on. We had 2 video vignettes, one from Drew McIntyre and one from Damian Priest. Drew McIntyre, he looked fucking cool as hell though. He had like an eye patch because of the incident from last Friday when he was pretty much slammed into a car and got glass in his eye, so he looked like fucking pirate Drew and stuff like that. He looked good. I'm like, you should just keep the patch, man. You look gangster, right? You look good, right? I like it. Very, very, very good. And he basically talked about Drew, not Drew, but talked about Damian Priest being a hypocrite and being a sneak and everything else, and how he hides in the shadows and stuff like that and all this other stuff. And basically, Damian Priest's video vignette was basically talking about Drew and how much of a liar it is and stuff like that. Now, there is not have been, I don't think, a match set up for WrestleMania, but I could see maybe it probably coming this Friday or even next Friday at the last minute. I can see that. But I'm thinking this Friday, if they get out of each other, you know, stuff like that, we will see a match, which I'm really looking forward to it now, because this thing is getting good, right? You know, you're getting like, they're jumping each other, like pretty much putting glass in each other's eyes and stuff like that. This is getting good, so I can't wait to see what's gonna happen. We had a match between LA Knight versus Tama Tonga. So Tama Tonga and LA Knight and Solo Sikoa basically had some altercations because later on in the night there was a match between Jacob Fatu and Strowman to see who was the #1 contender for LA Knight's title. And Tama Tonga's like, oh, you better worry about me, right? And stuff like that. So they had their match between LA Knight and Tama, and even with the distraction of Solo, LA Knight ends up winning that match anyway. So he will be going on to WrestleMania to fight one of the winners of this other match that I'm about to talk about right now. We got Jacob Fatu and Braun Strowman in a last man standing match. Now I must apologize that last Saturday when I made my video about Smackdown, I thought maybe they were going to do a triple threat match at WrestleMania for the last man standing match, but apparently this match was not a triple threat, and it was for the #1 contender for the US title for WrestleMania, sorry. So this was a great match. This was so much fun, and it was great to see. Jacob Fatu ends up winning. No, there was no Solo or no Tama Tonga helping him or anything else like that. They just did it one-on-one, which was great. I'm glad. And definitely Jacob Fatu is going to get that title at WrestleMania. Unless somehow Solo fucks shit up or some shit like that, I cannot see him not winning at WrestleMania. But we'll talk more about that in 2 weeks with Tim. Anyways, we had the debut premiere of Rey Fenix. I love the pyro. I love his entrance music. I think it was fucking amazing. I actually liked his music more than I liked Penta's music. So Rey Fenix is the brother of Penta. I think he's the younger brother of Penta, I believe. But yeah, he is the brother of Penta. They did mention that. They did mention that he is part of the Lucha Brothers and stuff like that and all this other stuff. So you have Rey Fenix on SmackDown and Penta on Raw. I think both these guys are going to tear up both of the brands and stuff like that. It was great. His fucking debut was amazing. One of the things that I was really impressed by was when at one point he was fighting Nathan Frazier, and Nathan Frazier was also his premiere. He is from like NXT. Nathan Frazier is awesome too. He definitely matches Rey Fenix's energy, like pound for pound, like the whole energy, the whole speed and everything else like that. It was fucking fantastic. But at one point, you had Rey Fenix. He was like on the corner of the post in the ring, and he like ran on top rope. Like he ran the rope kicked the guy in the face, right? And I'm just like, wow, like I've never seen anything like that in my life. Like that was fucking incredible. He ended up winning by doing I believe it was they call it a Mexican muscle buster, I believe. Kind of like a little pile driver thing, whatever. Not a pile driver, but oh fucking, what's it called? I can't think of it, sorry. One with that. And you know that he got interviewed and everything else like that. He was just happy to be there and stuff like that. He said he finally made it to the big time. I'm like, and everything else. He did other interviews. He was like crying in the background. I'm like, man, like I am so glad that these guys are finally getting to shine and everything else. Because you know when they were in AEW, they weren't even using them, right? For whatever reason, they weren't using them. I don't know why. I don't know if it's this. Tony Khan just being petty or whatever. I don't know. But I'm hoping that, you know, they do well here in the WWE and everything else. And I can't wait to see them get some titles around their waist. I'm really excited. And I think next week he fights Humberto next week. So that should be a good match. And I can't wait to see it. We got a little bit of bad news. So earlier on Friday, there was rumors that Kevin Owens may or may not be injured, and that if he is injured, they might have to cancel the wrestling match between him and Randy Orton, right? So Nick Aldis was in the ring, and he's basically saying this is part of his job that he don't like and stuff like that. Basically saying that, you know, sometimes some things happen, stuff like that, blah blah blah. He said, I'm gonna let Kevin Owens say something. So Kevin Owens comes out, you know, the crowd's cheering and stuff like that, and he basically is like, he's been doing wrestling for 25 years, and the 25 years that he's been doing wrestling, he, you know, there comes a time where, you know, sometimes you get injured, and this is why it's very important that you don't do this at home and everything else, because even as professionals, we get injured and stuff like that. They didn't know what the injury was at the time, and they figure out now that it's something to do with his neck, and so he has to get surgery right away, you know, and stuff like that. So he thanked the crowd, he thanked the audience, he thanked everybody, his family and all this other stuff, and you know, he's grateful and everything else. He wasn't sure when he was gonna come back, obviously because he got the surgery and recovery and stuff like that. Then you had Randy Orton come out, right? And Randy Orton, he didn't really touch Kevin Owens and stuff like that and everything else. And then Nick Aldis was like, unfortunately, Randy, because of this, you don't have a match at WrestleMania. And then Randy Orton just looked kind of like sad and everything else, and then he RKO'd Nick Aldis. And that was pretty much the end of the segment there. So here's the thing, right? I don't know if Kevin Owens really is injured or not. I'm guessing that he really is injured, because I did see something on my feed and they're talking about how like he was kind of mad that someone would say something about his injury before he could say anything about his injury. Like someone put it out there and said, because, you know, and stuff like that. So I'm guessing maybe he really is injured. But man, how cool would it be like if it was all just a shoot? That would be like the greatest fucking turn or twist ever. We would ever expected that. But I don't know if it is or it isn't. If it isn't, I hope that Kevin Owens gets healed quickly and everything goes well and he's back in action soon enough. Now, as far as Randy Orton's concerned, yeah, that's pretty fucked up. They doesn't have a match at WrestleMania. However, we do have two like people that came back from AEW. We have Miro, which aka Rusev, and then we have Aleister Black. Right, we could do something like how Seth Rollins and like WrestleMania 38, when he didn't have a WrestleMania opponent, and they brought Cody back in, and Randy Orton to be like, dude, just like do something like that and wrestle like either Aleister Black or Rusev, you know, and stuff like that. give him an opponent, be like, hey, you want to fight at WrestleMania? I mean, I don't know how this is going to work in the same situation and stuff like that, but he's like, I can get you an opponent and have Aleister Black come in, and then you can have a little mini feud. You can even start like some kind of little mini feud between Aleister Black and Randy Orton, or Rusev and Randy Orton. I don't know how it would work, and I don't know how they would do. Obviously not the same way as they would with like Cody versus Seth Rollins when Cody Rhodes came back. But I could see something like that happening and stuff like that, because at this point I don't really see like Randy Orton being involved in anything else, and it would be a shame for him not to be at WrestleMania, right? And it's like, why not, right? What a great way to bring back either Aleister or Rusev back, but into WrestleMania and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just a thought. I've heard people was talking about it, and I'm just like, I kind of like the idea actually, but I don't mind it. But we'll see what happens with that. But you know, best recovery for Kevin Owens if he's actually injured. So the last thing I want to talk about is CM Punk, Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and The Favor. So CM Punk started the show off, and you know, they're in Chicago, so obviously Punk's from Chicago, so you know they had to turn it up and turn it out in Chicago for CM Punk, right? CM Punk was basically saying, you know, they came back from the European tour and talking about how they always say that the international crowd is better, but we're in Chicago right now and you need to turn it up. And as he was saying this stuff, he was taking the camera from Rico, the cameraman, and he was, you know, just filming the audience and everything else, and he was like, tell them where we're from, like tell them Chicago and everything. No, Chicago's just fucking yelling and screaming and yelling CM Punk and everything else like that. Basically, from what I can remember, and I'm trying to remember, CM Punk, he was just talking about how, you know, grateful he is and how he's going to be main eventing in WrestleMania and how he's going to just beat Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and blah 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 blah. We have, and then here comes Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman comes out and he's apologizing for being late and everything else, and he said no disrespect to Chicago, no disrespect to my best friend CM Punk. He talked about like the last time they were in the ring together and how he wanted CM Punk to take him with him because, you know, he's basically scared shitless from Solo when Solo was tribal chief, and how he basically gave him that favor by helping his tribal chief win war games and stuff like that. But he had one more favor to ask him, right? And CM Punk's like, another favor, eh? Okay, what is it this time, Paul? And Paul Heyman's like, can you tell me the favor that I owe you? And then Punk starts laughing, he starts giggling. He's like, Paul Heyman was like, you know, because Roman Reigns is not here, and you know, he's like really upset and all this other stuff, and you know how these Samoans are when they get upset, it's really scary and blah 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 and everything else. And CM Punk is like, wait, he's not here? And then Paul looking like concerned and worried, like, he's not here yet. And then Punk is like, well, not that it's any of your tribal chief's business, but it will have some effect on him. So I'll tell you what, when he gets here, you let me know, and I will tell both of you at the same time. And then he walks out the ring, and then Paul looks worried, like, kind of looking like, well, damn, now I have to try to get the tribal chief to the Chicago. So then you have Seth Rollins in the background basically talking to Paul Heyman, saying like, hey man, it's gonna be alright, I'm gonna be out there in the ring because I can't wait to see what this favor is and everything else like that, right? So then later on, at the end of the night, you see someone coming out of the SUV, and it was the tribal chief, the OTC, Roman Reigns. and he don't look happy. And he's walking out the car, he's walking through backstage through Gorilla, and Paul Heyman's like, my tribal chief, my tribal chief, my tribal chief, blah 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 blah. Right? He just goes from backstage Gorilla to the stage to the ring. He grabs the mic, goes, Chicago acknowledged me. Chicago acknowledged them, and they said OTC. They gave him the acknowledgement. He starts talking to Paul Heyman. He's like, wise man. Paul Heyman says, yes, my tribal chief. Is Punk still talking about this favor? Yes, my tribal chief. Hey, wise man. Yes, my tribal chief. Should I tell Chicago a secret? Why, yes, my tribal chief. Because if it wasn't for me, your tribal chief, CM Punk wouldn't even be in the WWE. Which is interesting. I didn't know that. If it wasn't for me, he wouldn't even be in the main event of WrestleMania. Like, well, I knew that. Right? And stuff like that. So it's like, what favor could he possibly have? I've granted him all the favors that he wanted and everything else like that. I was thinking to myself, great, good for you, Roman, that you granted favors, but he don't want a favor from you. The favor was from Paul Heyman. He owed him a favor. I'm glad you're like doing all this stuff and everything else, but at the end of the day, it doesn't do with you. But anyways, I digress. And he's like, you know what? Let's just get him out here. Let's just get him out there. Let's just see what this favor is. And so instead of getting CM Punk, of course, we get Seth Rollins. Right? We get Seth Rollins, right? And Seth Rollins comes out and he's like, I would not miss this for the world. He's like, reality is about to bite you in your ass, Roman, and everything else like that. You fucked up. He's like, you should have took care of him. You should have took care of Punk at War Games when you had the opportunity. You should have let me take care of him in the cage at the Garden. But no. You have to be Roman and everything else and ignore everything I say. But that's okay, whatever. The reality is going to bite you in the ass. And Roman Reigns goes, the reality is that you can't be trusted. And that's the reality. And I didn't call you. I called CM Punk. Right? And he's like, and Seth Rollins starts laughing. He's like, look, I'm just out here to hear what the favor is so I can laugh or some shit like that. And the only person that is missing is, well, we only got one person missing here in this equation. So then you have CM Punk come out, right? And Chicago's yelling at CM Punk and stuff like that. And CM Punk comes in and he starts talking and everything else like that. Starts talking to Paul Heyman, basically saying that, like, a long time ago when I guess they wanted Paul Heyman was like a manager, a GM at Raw or something like that, and they wanted him to fire Punk and everything else, and he said no. And that he said that one day that when CM Punk is main event in WrestleMania, that he wants to walk him down that aisle, he wants to be in his corner, and that make him that promise when it happens, right? When he and stuff like that. He basically was just reminding him that, and that the favor was that he wanted Paul Heyman to be in his corner at WrestleMania, right? Which, by the way, I might add that earlier Paul Heyman was interviewed, and they asked him whatever the favor is, are you gonna do it? And then Paul Heyman was like, yes. Whatever the favor is, the answer is yes. So let's go back. So like I said, Punk asked Paul Heyman to be in his corner to walk him down the aisle. Like, oh my God, is he getting married? No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, he walked him to be in his corner, right? And Roman Reigns starts laughing. Like, are you kidding me? He says, Wiseman, go ahead and let him down easily. And Paul Heyman didn't say anything. He just had this worried look on his face and everything else. And he's like, and then Roman Reigns is like, Wiseman, tell him no, right? And Paul starts crying, and he's like, "Are you crying right now? Really? Like, are you crying right now? All I've done for you, I took you in, I did all the stuff for you." And I'm like, he took you in. I'm like, was he like poor or something? Like, was he homeless? Like, he ain't a pet. He ain't a dog, Roman. He's a human being. Like, oh my goodness gracious. Like, what the fuck, right? Right? And then he's like, Wiseman, I'm gonna tell you one more time. Tell him no. And Paul Heyman was like, my tribal chief, I cannot do that. Right? And Roman Reigns has looked at him, and you know, he starts walking. Paul Heyman's like walking into the corner, and then you have Roman Reigns grabbing the lapel of his jacket, like about to do something, and then CM Punk attacks Roman Reigns, puts him in the GTS, and then looks over at Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is like, at this point, he's laughing, right? Because he told Roman Reigns when Punk was talking about having Paul in his corner, and Seth Rollins like, I told you so, couldn't listen to me. Like, he is just smiling, laughing, like he's just loving this shit. And so it ended up just having a stare contest between Seth and Punk, and that's how that segment ends. So now we know that the favorite is having, you know, Paul in Punk's corner, which obviously it has something to do with Paul Heyman. What else would it have been, right? I don't see anything else. I wouldn't have, it had to have been him, right? So now I think I would like to see Seth Rollins win WrestleMania. And I've also heard of like people talking about Paul Heyman saying fuck Punk and fuck Roman and go with Seth Rollins, and I'm just like, I like the idea, really like the idea. I don't know how, like, I know how you can have it to where it would make sense for Paul to screw over Roman Reigns because of just how Roman Reigns just treats Paul Heyman, right? And then stuff like that, especially after that whole situation with Solo Sikoa when he and the Bloodline 2.0 had powerbombed Paul Heyman into the table. Where was fucking Roman Reigns? And you know, Roman Reigns never even went to go check up on him, because you know he didn't, because when Roman Reigns needed somebody for a 5th member for War Games, and he tried to call Paul Heyman's number was disconnected. So you could have him screw over in that situation, but I don't know how you screw over Paul Heyman, screwed over Punk, and why would he? To go with Seth Rollins. I don't understand. I wouldn't understand that point, but I could understand him going to Seth Rollins to screw over Roman Reigns for sure. But the reason why I also want Seth Rollins to win, and I'm sorry if I yelled, I didn't mean to yell, but the reason why I wanted Seth Rollins to win at WrestleMania is because, one, like, CM Punk wanted to main event WrestleMania. He does not need to win WrestleMania. That would be boring. Who gives a shit? 2, that point of like Seth Rollins always beating Roman Reigns, it just makes me happy. It tickles me. And it's always gonna be that thorn in Roman Reigns' side. Like, you know what? Roman Reigns might be a bigger star than Seth Rollins. Maybe. It depends on how you look at it. If that's the one thing that Roman cannot get over, is beating Seth Rollins. And I want that to always be a thing. So I'm hoping that Seth Rollins wins at WrestleMania. I will talk more about that with Tim later. But all in all, this was a pretty good SmackDown, other than the cringe I talked about earlier in the video. But it was a pretty good SmackDown. I really enjoyed it. Looking forward to the other 2 SmackDowns and everything else like that. But that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your Monday. I'll see you in my next video. Okay, bye.